Hi guys, let's start doing our Angular course. First, we'll set up our environment to be able to work with Angular. For the editor, you can go to visualstudio.com and download the editor for your particular environment. After the Visual Studio Code is downloaded, we'll just run its installer. Okay, we accept the agreement and we'll install the application. And inside of the Visual Studio Code, we'll go to extensions. So this icon here, and we'll install some popular extensions such as Angular snippets. So you can type Angular snippets here and just click install. And this will help us to write faster Angular code. And also we'll install auto import. So we'll type auto import. We'll click on install. And this will allow us to import files and include them in the code automatically without too much researching of their path. And another one is tslint. So type tslint here and we'll click on install. This will be our extension which will check our code for ensuring better code quality. And here is one more extension which is called TypeScript Error Translator. Why it's useful? Because TypeScript checks are becoming more and more strict, and this may overflow you with messages that you don't know exactly what they mean. This extension gives you help in those cases instead of wondering what to do. For example, here we have one interface. If we delete certain part of it and later in the code when we hover the error, we see that translation provides additional information towards the error, so we can orient ourselves way better. Another example, let's say that we don't return anything here in this switch mapper operator, and if we go to the error, we see the original error and you need to decode it. What does it mean? Well, the translation gives us a clear description that is expecting to return observable, but we are returning nothing. So the TypeScript error translator is quite useful, and I recommend you to install it to have better experience in the course. So once those extensions are installed, we can start using our Visual Studio Code, and the setup will continue with setting up a Node.js, which is a prerequisite for the Angular framework to be installed. So we'll go to nodejs.org and we'll just download and install one of the recommended releases. All right, Node.js is successfully set up. Let's check by going into command prompt. And here, let's say we type node -v. So this is the version of Node.js, and the node is working. Okay, and now what left is to go to the angular.io, the official Angular website, and we click on Get Started, then on Setup. We see here that we can install the Angular CLI together with the Node Package Manager. It's included within Node.js, and so we'll just again go to our terminal. So just type cmd. And here we are inside of the desktop, but we can create one new directory, let's say project. We enter inside of the directory, and here we'll just paste this npm install -global, and we're looking for this package, Angular and the CLI version. This will actually go and fetch all the needed packages which Angular framework requires, and also will install them, as well as some useful shortcuts and command line utilities that we'll use in the development of our application. All right, we have some privacy policy to accept, and our framework is installed. And now, as we can see from the Angular guide, we can create a workspace and initial application. And now we can use the Angular framework CLI tools, such as ng, and we'll create one new application. So we'll type ng new, and let's say first app, that will be its name. And now the Angular CLI will ask us whether we would like to add a routing. No, I will use a plain CSS, and we see that it creates the basic folder structure as well as configurations for us. Also, the CLI is adding the proper Node modules, which is the heaviest part of our project, but they're actually useful because just some of the modules will be used, so some parts of the modules, and will be included in the final version of the application after being transpiled to JavaScript from TypeScript. So basically we'll be working with TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript, and offers great flexibility while programming. All right, the setup of the project has been finished, so it resides inside of this directory, first app, and so from here we can just type ng serve. This will create one in-memory server, and with the help of a Webpack, we'll be able to browse our application. So as you can see, first the application has been compiled, then built, and we can run the project from this address, localhost, and this port. So we'll just copy the address, and in one new tab, we'll open this address. We see this is our first application, and this is the basic application we'll be extending in our project. We'll create our project. So we'll go to terminal and we'll open a terminal, and then we'll just type ng new, and the project will be called project, and we'll wait for Angular to bootstrap our project. We don't want to have routing installed, and we'll use a pure CSS for our styles. And now we're waiting for all the packages to be fetched and automatically configured by the Angular CLI. All right, so the project has been initialized, and now we can open up the project from our Visual Studio Code. We'll just click on Open Folder, and we'll choose our project. As we can see, we have the following structure. We have our node modules, and the project is inside of our source folder, and then app. So for now, we have only one component with CSS part, HTML part, and the component TypeScript part. And this is the main module which loads up this component. Okay, let's create our logging component now. We'll use again the terminal. And here we'll type ng generate component, and this will be a logging component. And this automatically will create those files for us. And this is our component here. We can open another terminal, and here we can just type ng serve, and this will open a new server, in-memory server, which will listen to port 4200 on local hosts, and where we'll use this server to open up our project and to preview it. So if we open the browser, we can see our project. By the way, during the compilation process, Angular is looking through all the modules which we need in our component and is compiling the TypeScript and transpiling it to JavaScript that can be rendered inside of the browser. If we type localhost and the port 4200, we should see our project, and that's how it looks like. We'll go back to Visual Studio Code and we'll open our login component .html. We'll delete this text here and we'll create one form. So we'll type form and then we'll bind to the submit event a function called login. Afterwards, inside of the form, we'll have two fields, name and password, and one button. So type name, it will be of type input, and type text with the name, and we'll create a binding. We'll use ng model to bind the form to a certain model. So we'll bind this form field. So type here ng model, and now the binding, we'll bind it to model .name. We'll put this in quotes, and we'll close our input. The same we'll do for our password. We'll just copy the line and replace it with password. The input will be password, and the name will be password. The binding will be to a different field in our model. And we'll have an input of type submit, and it will have a value of login. This will be our button which will submit our form. All right, we save and we see that Webpack, which is behind the Angular, is recompiling our code because it's so that we just made changes here. Okay, now it's time to create our model. But before creating the model, let's create one file, which we'll call user.ts. And here, actually, we will place our interface. We will use this interface. And based on the interface, we'll create our model. So we'll type export interface user. And inside, we'll just have two fields, name of type string, as well as password, which will be of type string. So we'll save this file, and now we'll use the file inside of our login component.ts. So here we'll import the file. So we'll type import user from, and here we'll choose the current directory and the file user. So this should be enough. And now let's use this user model. So we'll create our model just below the export class. So we'll type here our model. It will be a public property and of type user. And this is actually our interface where it gets used. So we use this interface, we'll create a property out of it, and immediately we'll initialize it. So we'll be using generics, and here we'll type user, and actually it will be empty. And as you can remember, this variable here is actually used in the binding. So the model is this here. So whatever we place some information in the input field, it will be bound to model.name, and actually we can access this information by accessing this variable here, model, from the component.ts. So this way we are creating a binding between the HTML part of the component and the TypeScript part of the component. One more thing before testing the code is to call this function login. So we'll go into our login component, and here we can just write console walk submit or submit it. We save and we can test our code. We see that our TypeScript linter is saying that this type of syntax is forbidden. So we can just type one plain object here and we'll type it as user. Actually, it will do the same. It will create just a normal empty object of type user. And now we would like to display this login component. In order to display it in our browser, we have to have a root to this login component. That's why we will go to our app module. And here we'll create our route. We'll create one constant. And here we'll save our routes. So it will be routes and of type routes. And inside, actually, it will be array of objects, and those objects will be our routes. So we'll have to specify inside of the first object the path towards we are trying to reach. So the path will be login, let's say. And for this path, what we would like to load up. So which component we would like to load up. So whenever the user types login in the URL, we would like to load up our login component. And we see our login component is automatically imported here. So this is for the routes. In order to load up those routes, we have to import router module and routes. So we import router module and routes from Angular router. And we'll use this router module here inside of our imports to load up the created routes. So we'll type router module for route, and we'll pass the routes as a variable. So what we did, we created the routes, we imported the router module and the route type, and afterwards we loaded up those routes using our router module. We can format the document, and when we save, we may try to access the code. So from the browser, if we type here login, we see that we are still redirected to the main page, although the URL works. So if we type another URL, we see that it's invalid and we are redirected back to the root of the site. But let's see why the route is not showing. We'll go back to our code, and in our app component .html, this structure of our website, we can delete part of the code, and here we would like to place our router outlet, or where we want our components which are loaded through the path to show up. So we'll just type router outlet, and when we save and the code is recompiled, let's take a look again. Okay, this is welcome to project, and when we go to login route, it's again not working. Let's open up with F12 the console, so to inspect what is the error. And we see that we have some binding error here. ngModel is not a valid attribute name. We'll go back to our code, and inside of our form, we should close the bracket here. It's a syntax error, and Angular is very specific and looks for all the missing attributes. So again, we'll try to load the login route, and see now we have another error, which is can bind to ngModel since it's a known property of input. This error is actually because ngModel belongs to forms module, and we haven't loaded up this module yet. So that's what we're gonna do now. We'll go to our app module, and here we'll import the forms module. So we'll type import forms module from Angular Forms, and then in order for those force modules to be accessible in our components, we will list them inside of our imports here. Okay, so we save, we recompile the code, and we'll go again to the browser. And we see now the logging route works. If we just load up the base URL, we see welcome to project, and when we go to login, we see our form works. Let's try to click on the login button. We see submitted also works. That's because if you can remember, here in our login component, we are displaying the submitted message once we press this method. Actually, since we have binding to this model, we can show up the whole model here. So we can log the model, or let's say this model, because we are accessing a public property of the class login component. And again, here we can type here a name and password. And when we click on login, we see that we have an object with our fields bound to this model, which we are displaying correctly.
For the next part of the application, we'll be using JSON Web Tokens. Why we are using this technology? Because we'll be creating several files, and our client first will do authentication to our PHP server, and the server will create a JSON Web Token and return it to the client. And afterwards, when the client would like to use certain service, we will place its request together with this token, and the server will check if the token is valid and return a response to our client. This is due to the fact that both servers will share the same password key with which the JSON Web Token is signed. Let's see what's inside of the certain JSON Web Token. If we go to this web address, jsonwebtoken.io, we see this is the encoded version of our token. It consists of 3 parts: header, payload, and also a secret which assigns this token. So we can place different information inside of the header, such as algorithm of encoding, the type of the token we're transferring, and the payload is actually the data we would like to carry this token. All this is combined, and we can also sign this data with our, let's say, password. And we see that the moment I type here something, the information changes. After we transfer this and the third party uses it, unless the third party doesn't know this password, they will not be able to authenticate the token. So in PHP, we'll be using the following library, JWT helper, which is taken directly from Firebase project PHP JWT. So you can go ahead to GitHub and load up JWT helper, copy the text here, the code directly, and we'll create a new file into a new folder of our server, and we place the code there. We save it under var www.html, and then we'll create a folder out JWT helper.php. Okay, our helper file is here. As we can see, we can use important functions such as encode and decode in order to create and decode tokens. And then we will need, for the authentication, we'll create a new file, again in the same folder, and let's save it under the name of auth.php.
Okay, for the PHP part, we are inside of our project directory, and we'll make a directory called Auth. And here in this directory will reside our PHP files. In order to run the files we'll use the integrated PHP interpreter. We can run our project from there. We'll just type sudo php -s and now localhost and the port 80, and we'll run the contents of this directory here. Okay, our project is running. If we open up our browser and open up the base URL, we see the resource is not found on the server, but our web server is responding. We'll now create our files. For the JWT, we'll use a helper file for encoding and decoding the JWT, and you can reach it by entering in GitHub and browsing through this Angular Code Igniter seed API application helpers JWT helper.php. From here, we'll be primarily using the decode and encode functions. We'll click on the row and we'll copy the file content, and inside of our Visual Studio code, we'll create this file. So we'll open our Auth folder, and here we'll paste our new file, which we'll call JWT helper.php. Inside, we'll place the GitHub raw content. Okay, we save this file. We'll now create an authentication file. Again, inside of this folder, we'll call it auth.php. The purpose of this file is to be able to issue a token. And first, we'll open up the PHP tag, and we'll allow certain headers to be requested from our within our server. That's because we're creating communication within the same domain, and this is restricted, so we'll allow certain headers. So we'll basically say header, access control, allow origin, and we'll allow everything from our Angular web server. This will be the local hosts on port 4200. Again, we'll set up a header, and this will be to allow certain headers to be accepted, and those are origin, content type, accept authorization, and X request width. From the view, we'll turn on the word wrap, and also, so we'll send this file as a JSON request. So we'll type header, and the content type will be application JSON. Okay, now it's time to include our helper. So we'll type include once, JWT helper.php. And first we'll set our token as unauthorized. So we'll type JWT token. This will be our variable, which will be later sending to the users. And for now, we'll be sending non-authorized. And now we have to grab the data which users will send towards this URL and this file auth.php. And since we'll be accepting JSON parameters, we'll grab them using file get contents. So the raw request we'll grab using file get contents, and we'll be using PHP input. And once we have the contents, we have to decode them because they are just a plain string. So we'll grab them into a data parameter, and we'll use JSON decode, and we'll grab the raw parameter. And also we would like to convert them to an array. So we use the second parameter to true. Let's print out what we have in the data for now. We save the file. And for the testing of this file, we will use a utility called Postman. So you can download the program and try it. And here is the Postman. It has very good features for testing requests. So we'll create a new request. And here we'll point it to our local host, the Auth folder, and the auth.php. And if we send a request, we see that we have pretty much nothing in the output. That's why we would like in the body to send a raw data, and this data to be of type JSON. And let's send a JSON object, and here everything will be in quotes. I'll zoom in a little bit. So let's say that we would like to send a password of demo and a username of demo. Okay, this is the request. And once we click on send, here we see that we received this array, and this will be receiving from the Auth PHP because this is the output of the response this file is sending to us. And now we can grab this data and do something with it. And that's exactly what we are going to do right now. We go back to our Visual Studio Code, and instead of just printing the data, we will simulate a database connection with a simple if statement. So first we will check if we have set those parameters in the request. So if is set data and the field pass. So this is for the password. And at the same time is set again data and the field username. We'll check for their values. We'll check if data pass equals to demo, and the same data username is again demo. And if that's true, we'll generate a token to the user. First, our token will be an empty array, and its ID, let's say it will be, we'll be sending something non-sensitive to the user. So we'll be sending a certain ID to the user, and we are composing our token here, just the information that we would like to send. And now we use our helper function in code from our JWT helper to create and assign a token using this information inside. So we'll type just JWT token, this variable here, and this time we'll fill it with information. So we'll use the JWT static method encode, and we'll place inside our token, and we'll sign it with our, let's say, secret key. So just type secret server key. You can of course choose another variable here. It will be just like our private key here. We will have our JWT token, and the next thing is just we would like to output the token to the user. So we'll just type echo, and we'll use JSON encode in order to create JSON output. We'll output our access token, and we'll fill it with our JWT token with the information that we have inside. Okay, let's save and test now the auth.php and the new logic we placed inside. We go to Postman, and we will send the same information. And we see that we have received an access token. We will copy this token for now in the clipboard. If we send wrong information, we see that we are not authorized and we receive not authorized access token. And the next thing we would like to do is to see how we can use this generated token in order to authorize ourselves in front of a third-party service. So we'll create such a utility function, and we'll call it info.php, where we will be checking if the user has right access with the provided token. So let's go to our project, and here we'll create another new file. It will be called info.php. Inside, again, we'll start with the same information. So we'll use, again, headers. Those are the headers which will allow requests to be made from this origin, as well as certain headers which will allow certain requests to be performed. So we will allow, for example, if a request has a header of authorization, this request to be performed and to be accepted, so we can handle such requests. Afterwards, we will be again sending a JSON request, and we include our JWT helper library. And now if we go back to Postman, inside of Postman, we can see that we can set up authorization. So every request can also have appended to it a token. So we can choose several ways and different protocols of authentication, and we'll use this bearer token. Actually, here in the field of token, we can place our token, and this token will be used for authentication process. So that when we are accessing certain service, if the token is valid, the service will respond properly. And now, before accessing a certain URL, let's see how we can grab the information about first the authorization header and second about the token. We'll go back to the code and we'll use a helper function. Basically, it will be called get authorization header, and it grabs the server authorization. And here we have several if statements, which will check depending on the version of the server we are, actually how we can grab this authorization field. When we have the authorization header saved in our auth header, we can move to the next step, and we can check if we have something in the authorization. So if the request has been sent with the authorization header, we would like to see if the user has sent a bearer. So if the user has filled this field here, bearer token, so if the token has been filled. At the same time, we would like to check whether we have a bearer in the request. We'll type pregmatch, and we'll look for bearer and a little space afterwards, and we'll check the authorization header for this. And if we find something passing to this bearer, we would like only to grab the actual value of the token, and we're grabbing this inside of those brackets. So actually we are capturing this information here. We don't care what it will be as long as it exists. So we are looking for string starting with bearer, a little bit of space afterwards, and we're looking for the raw value of the token, and we'll be saving it inside of a matches array. Okay, and actually the bearer will be this, or the second element of this array. We'll save it in a variable bearer, goes to matches 1. Okay, let's just echo the bearer, and we save. We'll go to Postman, and at the same time we will use our predefined token we had just before. So we'll send a request, and here we'll paste our real token. Okay, so let's click on send. We've sent the request, but this time we'll send the request not to the auth, but to the info.php, our new file, again with authorization. And we see as a response the raw token value. So we managed in our PHP code to grab the raw token value and to have it here in this variable. So now once we have this bearer, we can check whether we have something inside. So if there is something inside of the bearer, we'll build our token. Again, we'll use our JWT helper, but this time we would like to decode the token information. So we'll use JWT decode, and we'll use the bearer together with our predefined secret. So we'll type secret server key, and if everything is okay, we can, let's say, give admin access to our user, or just give a JSON response with JSON encode. And here we'll send that the user is admin. Okay. If we don't have bearer, let's see what we can do. Actually, we can place everything inside of a try catch block. So this is our sensitive information here. We'll try to create a token and to send it. If there is a problem, we'll catch actually the exception, and we'll send a header, a special header, unauthorized header to the user. So header HTTP 1.1 401 unauthorized, and we'll stop the execution of the script. Okay, it looks promising. Let's save and see how we can test this in Postman. Now the token is valid. So if we click on send, we should receive the sensitive information, and we see that we receive username equals to admin. Let's modify a little part of the token. Let's delete 2 characters and send the same request with invalid token. And we see that we received a header with the status 401. And this means that our token is somehow not valid. And if we paste again the valid token, we see that we can request our service and get information correctly without any further problems. Now we'll go to Angular and create its own services, which will use those PHP resources. We'll create those services in a terminal. I will just type ng generate service, and then into the directory of services, we'll type auth. So this will be our authentication service. As we see, 2 files are being created. If we refresh, we see the services, and we open up our first service. And the service will use HTTP client. It will be injected into constructor, and it will be of type private. So this is our local variable, and it will be of type HTTP client, and we'll import it here. Import HTTP client from Angular HTTP. Once it's correctly imported, we'll go to our application module.ts, and inside we'll need to import HTTP client module into the imports, so it can be used by the other components. So we'll type here HTTP client module, and we see it's automatically imported from Angular common HTTP. We go back to the authentication service, and we can use this HTTP variable right now. As you remember, in our login component, we had this function login. It will use our service. Let's create here one function login in the service, and we'll just log out from login service. Okay, inside of our login component, we'll use the authentication service. So inside of the constructor, we are importing it. We are dependency injection. So we type private auth service of type auth service, and it's imported automatically here. So here we can use auth service dot login the function, and let's pass the model to this function. So we are passing the login and username data to this function, and in the service, of course, we have to accept something. We would like to accept model of type user, and this user will import user from login user. So we are accepting the same model. Once we are in the login component, we're using our service .login method, and we are transferring the model which we grabbed from our form. Okay, so we go to the service, and we type from login service, and then we can also walk the model parameter. When we save and test the code, let's click on login. We open up the console with F12, and let's say we type demo. We see from login service we received the name and the password. All right, guys, we have our project. We can type username and password, and we see that we are receiving those values here from the authentication service. Now, when we go to the authentication service, we'll make a couple of changes. For example, here we would like this to be used as another variable. So we'll type import user as user form data. Just for some efficiency, we're doing this, and not to be confused. And here in the model, actually, we'll use this alias here to access the data. So the functionality will stay the same. The next thing I would like to do is to create two helper functions for dealing with our token. They will get the token and save it into a local storage, and also the next utility will grab the token from the local storage, and this token will become accessible to our application. So for this, we'll use getters and setters. So we'll type get token. So this way we'll be accessing this variable token, no matter that we are using brackets here. So the moment we would like to get a token, we'll create a cache token variable, and this cache token will be a private member of this class here. So we'll type private cached token, and inside of the get token, we'll check if this member cache token exists, and if it exists, we'll return this member. So we'll type return this cached token. And the next thing I would like to do is actually to check whether we have something in our local storage. So we'll type const storage token equal to local storage dot get item, and our token, we'll call it Auth token. So if we have something in our local storage, then we would like to save the contents of the storage token. So to grab the data from the local storage and save it into this cache token. So we'll type this cache token equals to storage token. And of course, since this is getter and we are accessing a variable, we have to return back the information to the user or the calling function. So we'll return exactly this storage token. Okay, this is for the get token method. We'll format the document. And the next thing is to see how we can set the token. So for the setter, again, we'll use set token, but here we'll set a value inside of our token. So we'll type this cache token and we set it to the passed value as a parameter. So whatever we're passing here, or we type, for example, token equals to something, this something will be set inside of this variable, and we are writing here the way I would like this to be done. So first we're setting inside of the cache token the value passed to this variable token, and then we'll check if actually something is passed. So type if value, and then we'll save the token into the local storage. So we'll type local storage dot set item, and here we'll have to type the name of the variable we'd like to save in the local storage. So it's Auth token, and the second parameter, our value passed in. In another case, we'll just like to remove the saved data inside of the local storage. So type local storage dot remove item, and we'll pass the name of the data we'd like to remove, and it's called Auth token. We now may go and test the usage of a get and set token. So for example, here inside of our login function, we can type token equals to a model dot name. So whatever we are passing from the form would like to be saved inside of our token. Of course, this is a member instance of our class here. Let's test what we will have in our local storage after this. I will go to our browser, and here let's type demo, and here under application we see that we don't have anything in our local storage. When we click on login, we see that our key has been created and set inside the value of a demo, which was the name from our login form. Okay, if we go back and let's test if we don't set anything or it's empty, we see that the delete of the token also works, and we return a little bit with our demo. Let's grab the token. So right now it's in the local storage. We can type console log this token, and it will trigger this function get token, and we will grab the token from the local storage and we will return it, and we can see it in the console. All right, so no matter what we type here, if we click on login, we see the output from the local storage. This means that our functions for setting and getting the token are working correctly. All right, the next thing we would like to do is to write an Angular service for accessing the token provider service. If you remember, in the old PHP file, we created such service, which if we pass demo and demo here for username and password, it will return us a token which is signed, and we would like to grab this token and save it into our local storage. So in our old service, we will making requests towards old PHP. In order to do this, we will modify our function here. So instead of the model, we'll use an user here as a variable, and also here we would like this function to return observable, and this observable will be of type Boolean. Why we are using observable of type Boolean? First, we are using observable because we'll be doing asynchronous HTTP requests towards our PHP file here. And the second thing, we would like to return Boolean in order for us to know whether we have successfully managed to get a token from our service, or we have gotten a non-authorized response. So we have to import observable. It's for RxJS library, and then we'll start writing our function. So first we'll make a post request. We'll type this http.post, and we would like to point the request toward our service. This is the IP address of the server, and the auth.php is the file name. The next thing we would like to do is to pass towards this request parameters. So we'll pass our username and password. We'll write the parameters in those parentheses. So we'll type here username, and we'll grab the username from our user variable here, which is actually provided from this interface user from data. And if we go back to the user from data, this is this file. We have inside the name and the password. Okay, so here we'll be taking the username as user.name. Also the password as user.password. We are sending this request. Afterwards, we will use another operator pipe. Here we'll be still inside of the observable, and we would like to catch any errors in the network that might occur. So we'll type catch error, and we'll type error of type any. The moment we have error, we would like to log it on the console. So we'll type console log HTTP error, and we'll type JSON stringify the error to the user. We'll throw this error towards the receiving component, which uses this service. So we'll type return throw error, and we'll pass the error here. Of course, we have to import the catch error. It will be imported from RxJS operators. Let's format the code. And so far we are setting a request, passing the parameters towards this auth.php file, which will be requested from this server, and we're catching errors. Since this is observable of type boolean, let's return just true, and this auth operator, of course, we have to import it. So no matter what we are posting, we'll be receiving true here. All right, let's test this observable. Since it's observable, actually in our logging component, we have to subscribe to this observable. So here we're using the authentication service. We're using the login method, and we'll type subscribe. From the subscribe, we'll receive data. This data we can console log. And also in case of error, receive it, and also we can console it logout. Okay, let's format the document. We save the project, recompiling, and now we'll go and try to send some data. If we click on login, we see true. Actually, this way we are returning always true, so that's why we don't see error. But if we are trying to get some information out of this URL here, actually we can grab it within the pipe operator. So we'll type map, and then we'll get the response. And actually for now, we would just like to write the response on the screen. So type console log response. And the map operator, we have to also import it. So we import here the map operator. And the next thing, of course, we have to return from this observable. So here in front, we'll type return. And not only that, we would like to log out the response, but we'll return here true. So this will mean that our response has passed successfully. So right now we can test our code when the server is stopped. So we'll type some information here, and we'll watch the network tab. We see that the request is failed, and on the console, actually, we are able to catch the error. So we continue. We'll start again the service and clear the console and send the request. We see that we received data from our authentication service via Angular service. So let's continue writing our logging method of our service. So here we already have the response, and as we saw from the response, we can grab the access token part, and that's what we are going to do right now. So we will just create one new variable of type constant, so it will be access token, and we'll grab from the response access token. And the next thing, we would like to check if it exists, because we know that the server will not return anything if our user and password are incorrect. So it will return a response of type 401. Here we're checking if we have a token, and this token also not equals to non-authorized. So this will be for the users who are actually authorized. So in case of success, we would like to do several things. The first is to save the token. So this token, if you remember our helper functions, that's why we wrote them, because right now we'll save the token here, equals to this fetched access token. and then we'll return true. In all other cases, if it's empty token or the access is not authorized, we'll return false. And that should be our function. We can make a slight recap. We're sending a request to our authentication function. We are passing our form data here, and we are catching the errors inside of this observable, and we're displaying them on the screen this time, or we can command this, we don't need it. We'll throw the error back to the component with this throw error method. While we have a response, we grab the access token out of the response, and we are checking whether this access token exists and it's actually authorized user. So if both of those are true, we are saving the token into the local storage and we're returning true. So we're returning observable of Boolean of type true. Otherwise, we're returning false. Since we are returning observable, back in the login component, we are subscribing to this observable, so we are starting it, and we are logging what we have received so far. Okay, so we can test the data, whether it works with our functions right now. We'll watch the authentication token, we'll delete it, and we'll type some fake account here. We see that nothing happens to our application and local storage, although we are sending requests to our authentication server. You may wonder why those are two requests. Actually, the first is just a pre-flight request to see whether this resource exists. And the second is the normal post request. This is probably because we are developing locally on a local server. So right now, let's go back to the application and under the local storage, and let's provide proper credentials and click on login. And we see that we made a request back to our PHP file, and it has received this request and processed it and returned a valid token. And now this token is saved into our application local storage. All right, the next thing we would like to do is actually to use our second file we created. If you can remember, this was the info.php file. Actually, if you remember this info.php, we were using it to authorize our token whether we have access to a certain service. So here we are grabbing the token, we are grabbing the bearer, so the token information, and if it is valid and signed, we are decoding it using its secret inside of the token, and we are sending credentials towards our user. Otherwise, we reject access towards a certain service. So we'll be using this in order to grab information about our user and to display it on the screen. That's why, again, we go back to our authentication service and we'll create a new method called getUserDetails. We'll again send an HTTP request, but this time get HTTP requests. And afterwards, we'll return it, of course. So we'll type return this HTTP get, and right now we'll point to the info.php resource. Before closing the request, we would like to send some parameters, and these are actually the headers we would like to send. And since we have the token saved in our local storage, inside of the headers, we would like to send this token with our request. So we'll type authorization, and here we'll type error, and using string template literals, we'll send the token from our local storage. Then we would like to check for errors. So our usual function, again using pipe operator, type inside catch error, and we would like to raise an error. So we will type return throw error, and either we will be sending directly the error, or if it's empty, this means that this request has failed, so there is something wrong with the server, and we'll send server error to the client requesting function. Next thing is to grab the actual information. So if there are no errors, we are continuing down the observable chain execution. So we'll type map, and if we have response, this means that we have something from this info.php function, which will be this array here, returned as a JSON object, which means that in our response, we'll grab it of a certain type. Let's just for now write JWT user type, and we'll write the body of the map function. But before this, let's define this JWT user type. So we go here up, and just like if you remember, we had this type user interface. We'll create a new JWT user interface. So we'll type interface JWT user, and inside we would like to save one variable which will be logged in, and it will be of type boolean, and the next will be our username, which we are receiving from the info.php service, which will be of type string. Okay, this will be our JWT user, and together with this we'll create our current user variable, a local variable which will grab and will comply with this interface. So it will type JWT user, and let's set the default user. Logged in will be false for this user, and the username, let's say it will be guest. So we'll be using those as a default when we are setting our application. We would like to use the notion of subjects and observables. So we'll create one new behavior subject, which will be used for propagating data to all the listening observables. And then we'll create one observable out of this subject. So we can subscribe to this observable and listen to it. So let's create this right now. Inside of our class here, right next to the constructor, we'll create our subject. So it will be of type public, and it will be called user subject, and it will be of type behavior subject, and we'll pass inside our current user. So we're creating a subject with initial data set to our current user, which is the user is not logged in and its username is guest. This is a nice approach because afterwards we'll be propagating this data to all the subscribed services or components, and whenever we would like to change something, we will just propagate the changes through this subject. Now, just because we would like to have read-only access to this subject, we'll create an observable. So type user info, and here with the $sign, and to say that this is observable, and it will be observable, and here we'll have object inside of this observable, and actually we'll grab this user subject and we'll transform it to observable. Okay, we have our very important variables. With this, we have read and write access. With this, we have only read access. But before using the newly created subject and observable, let's see what we are having as a response from the request of our PHP service. So just like to console log the response. And actually get user details, we have to trigger this service. In order to trigger this service, we will create one new component. So type ng generate component navigation bar, navbar. And now we have the navbar component here. And inside of the navbar component, we'll go to its TypeScript file. And here, while the component is installed, we'll trigger a request to our authentication service. First, of course, we have to import it, the service, or inject it into our constructor. So we'll type private authentication service of type auth service, and it's automatically import here our service, so we can use this auth service. And our new function called get user details. The easiest way to use it is just to subscribe to it. Okay. And let's see how the code works. And actually, for our navbar component to appear in our browser, we have to first include it in our app module. We see that it's already included. It's in the declarations, but it's not here in the routes. So let's use the default path to include in every request to our Angular application this navigation bar. So type path, and we'll use an empty path, and then for the component it will be navbar component. This convention will load this component for all the instances we are requesting, and all the other paths will work too. Okay, if we go to our root folder, we see navbar works. And also we have two requests. One is a pre-flight with options flag requests, but here the normal GET request. We can see that we are actually sending a better request towards this address authentication info PHP. On the response, we see a successful response, and we have received admin permissions, which we can use in our project here visually. We go back to our navbar component, and inside of our class, we'll create one observable. So we'll type current user, and then we will type observable, and inside we'll hold object information, and we'll get the data from authentication service. And then we would like just to grab this observable from there. So with this, we are querying our authentication service. And since here, if you remember, we had one observable here, user info, we are just using the same observable inside of our navbar component. Okay, we have the observable right now in this component, and let's use it in its HTML template. So we can delete this information here, and let's see what we have inside of our observable. So we'll use current user, and we will use a special async method to subscribe to the observable from our template. It's very useful because we are subscribing and unsubscribing automatically. So whenever the component closes, Angular handles this for us. And then we'll use JSON to see more understandable information. So what's inside of our observable. Of course, we have to write here the $sign. Let's test it. And we see immediately that we have username of a guest and that we are not logged in. We see that we have authentication token, and let's check why we have this, since we are receiving our username of admin. We go back to our authentication service, and we see that here, although we are receiving our response, we have to pass it on through our subject in order for all the observables which are connected to the subject to receive this information. So here in the map function, we'll use this user subject dot next. So we're propagating information and we'll pass the whole response there. Let's save and see the result. We see that we only have username admin. Let's add more information towards this object. This we can do very easily since response is an object, and in this object is of type JWT user. We see that we added in the interface and the current user a logged in of type Boolean. So we can just here set this field. So we can type a response dot logged in equals to true. So yeah, we see we received admin and we are logged in. And now we'll go to the navbar component, and we can just type navigation. Inside here, we'll use one div tag, and we'll have an URL tag and some li tags. So inside of the URL tag, we would like to check actually with ngIf if we have something in this current user observable. We'll type current user and we subscribe only once to it, and we'll use it as a local variable, current user. If we have something, we'll continue here in this block. Otherwise, we'll display to the users a loading template. This loading template name will be here. So we'll, with the ng template, we'll create a template with the name of loading. And here we'll write loading, please wait. Okay, so let's see what we have if we actually have data. Again, we'll check if our user is logged in. So we'll create one UI tag. And again, we'll use the ngIf statement to check our current user. And we are using this variable here. We derived from our observable. If it's logged in, we'll type, hello, you are logged in as, and here we'll grab information from our current user and we'll display the username. Let's see for now what happened to the browser, and we can see, hello, you are logged in as admin. Actually, we can go here and delete our token and refresh. We see far nothing has been shown to the user. Okay, so the project functions normally. The next thing we'll do is to create a logout link. So type href link, and on click, we would like to trigger logout method. And we'll go to our root URL of the site. Here it will be logout. And actually we'll wrap this into UI. And let's call this logout function in the navbar component. Actually, it will be very simple. In the navbar component, I will just issue the same name method from our service. So we'll type this authentication service logout. And now let's create it. We go to the authentication service, and here we'll create the logout service. The first thing we would like to do is to erase the token. So this token, we can set it to null to remove it from our local storage and from our cached variable. The next thing is to log out the user. So we have to propagate our default user here that we have with a host and guest. So this object here, we have to propagate it using our subject and all the observables we receive the data. So how to do this? The propagation is easy. You know already this user subject dot next, and we'll propagate the current user. The thing is that right now in our current user variable, we have a logged in user, and this will do pretty much nothing. So we have to actually to recreate this information here. So we'll type current user dot logged in equals to false. And the next thing is that current user dot username, let's set it to guest. We format the document, and this is our service. We are resetting our token, we're removing it from the local storage, and we are propagating that the user is not longer logged in and his username is guest. Let's save and go back to test our code. Okay, we have to correct our template. We have here one more UI tag. Okay, let's try again. So this is our project. Since we are triggering from the navigation our info PHP, we see that we are not authorized, and this has not been seen here. Inside of our application, we don't have any token. If we go to URL login and we type a fake login, we see nothing happens. Let's type demo and demo here. So we see our token is set. If we go back, we see that we are logged in as admin. Let's test the logout function. We see the local storage is empty and we are not anymore logged in. Let's see how we can protect now a certain resource for being accessed under only logged in users. All right, for this, we'll create one new component which will protect. So just type ng generate component, let's say secret. After it has been created, we can see the secret here, secret component. If we open the HTML, we see secret works. All right, right now, the next thing I would like to do is to create a guard for this component. So we'll use ng generate guard out, and we'll use the CanActivate method. Under our source app, we have our AuthGuard. If we open the file, we see we have a little template with which we can work. And here in our app module, in order to protect those routes, we can use our AuthGuard. It's very easy. Our secret component, we will list it here. So it will be secret, and we will load up the secret component. In order to activate this route, so we'll type CanActivate, we'll use AuthGuard service. So we'll type AuthGuard. This AuthGuard is actually our file here. So we have to write here that it implements the CanActivate interface. And since it's implemented, it has to define it, this function. So we'll type CanActivate. And let's say it returns Boolean. And it returns true. And this CanActivate is actually from our router. So we'll import here both our router and also our CanActivate from Angular router. So we correct the names. And now, whenever we are going into this route secret, we're trying to load up this secret component, but first we'll check our AuthGuard whether we can load it up. And since we set this to true, it will be easy for us now to load up this component. It's not protected. We're actually always returning true. So we can activate the component. And actually, let's test it. If we go here and type secret, we see secret works. Let's test if we return false. If again we go to this secret URL, we see that we've been redirected towards the root of the project, so we are not allowed to enter this URL. Let's elaborate a little bit on this function in order to protect our route. Okay, this method actually can be used in order to query certain service and return information. Since we are dealing with asynchronous data, we can return observable. So we'll type observable of type Boolean, not only Boolean here, true or false. Then the next thing is to query our service. So we'll type this authentication service, and we'll import it in the constructor of this AuthGuard. So we'll type constructor, and this will be our authentication service. It is auto imported here on top. And also we would like to use our router. It will be type public, so it can instantiate itself. So we have the router, we have the authentication service. And now from this authentication service, let's see what we can use. We'll use our user info observable. We'll get inside of the observable to see what's in there. With the map, we'll auto subscribe for the observable. And with all the data we receive, it will be of a type locked user. And let's write this interface just to be safe on type checking. Locked user. Inside we'll have two parameters locked in. Of course, you can group all those interfaces in a single file and include it. It will be of type Boolean and username of type string. So when we have the locked user, we're receiving the data, and let's check if there is something in this data or if locked in is true. So type if data locked in. So if this is true, actually we would like to return true. This means that we will exit from our CanActivate function, and our AuthGuard will allow this URL to pass in. Actually, we have forgotten to import the map operator from RxJS operators. Okay, here let's fix the constructor and format the document. And now if we are logged in, we are returning true. In other cases, we would like to redirect the user using the router.navigate. We'll redirect it to the login URL and we'll return false. Okay, we see this error that we have to return from our function. This means that since we're using this observable here and we're returning here, this return gets hidden. So we have to return from the whole function. And actually, whatever we're returning in those if and else statements will propagate towards the whole function. And this will satisfy the CanActivate method. Okay, we format once again the document. And this is our function. Let's recap what is inside of the function. It's of type observable Boolean. And so we are querying our observable and we get the data out of it by basically subscribing via the map operator. Since we are inside of the observable, we see the data we are receiving. And if the user is logged in, we are returning true. Otherwise, we are navigating towards the login page and we are returning false. Let's test now this AuthGuard. Let's now try to access our secret URL. We see we're redirecting to our login page, so we provide our username and password. We see authentication works. And if we go back to the secret, we see that still we are redirecting to our login URL. Why is this happening? Well, there is a reason. We are using observables and they cannot propagate while we are manually refreshing the page like this. So in order to fix this, we'll go to our project and we'll include the navigation here inside of our navbar component. Here we'll just type, let's say, a router link, and it will go to our secret URL, and we'll type secret URL here. Okay, let's test now. We see the secret URL and the secret works. Let's remove the token and go back to the first page. We see navigation, then secret URL. If we click on the secret URL, we see that our AuthGuard works and we should be redirected to type our username and password. And then actually we can access the secret URL. Now the functionality of the project is almost complete. Let's polish it. All right, we can go and type material Snackbar. And from the Angular material help, actually we can install the Snackbar. From the guides, first we have to install the Angular material. So we'll use this row here, npm install, and we'll grab the material, CDK, and animations packages. In our other terminal, we'll just paste this command. Okay, we see that we don't have permissions to install them, so we'll type here sudo. We'll go and use this line here to be able to add the already installed packages into our project, so not to add them manually. Okay, we'll paste it. We'll see the output. We choose a default theme. We don't require Hammer.js, and we would like browser animations to be enabled. We see that our package JSON has been updated, and also certain variables are added to our CSS files. See the style CSS is modified, as well as our index HTML. So now if we refresh our project, we see already that Angular material is loaded. And now we'll bring some functionality via the Angular material Snackbar, so that we have some messages here while we are typing our username and password if they are erroneous. For this, we'll go back to the help and we'll go to the Snackbar. First, we see that we have to import the mat Snackbar module from the Angular material Snackbar. We'll go to our app module and we'll do exactly this. Next, this module will provide it here in the imports to be accessible within our components. Since it's accessible, we can see the code of our examples. Actually, in the component we would like to use the Snackbar, we have to import it. Since this is our login component, we'll open it, and here we'll import the mat Snackbar. The next thing, in order to use it, we'll place it inside of our constructor. So type private Snackbar. Here we'll type mat Snackbar. we're injecting the Snackbar into our constructor so that we can use it afterwards. So far, this logging component is very simple. And now, in case if we have data, we don't want exactly to log it out on the console, but just to redirect our user towards like the root URL. So from the login prompt to go to the root URL, we'll type this router, navigate, and here we'll provide the root URL. And for this, of course, we have to import our router and the router from Angular router. Okay. All right, now the code should work. Let's test it. We enter false password, nothing should happen. But if we enter a correct one, we should be redirected to our root URL. The next refinement is to use the Snackbar. In case of error, we would like to display it via a Snackbar. And this error actually will be an error thrown from our server error. So use our Snackbar. We type this snackbar.open, and the message will be server error. And the action we would like to send to the user is just try again. Then for the configuration of the Snackbar, we would like its duration of appearance to be like 2 seconds. And I think we are ready to test the code just to format it once again. So if the server doesn't respond, we should receive a notification message. And let's stop the server and go back to our project and try to log in with proper details. And we see server error, try again. By the way, we have to restart our project in order for the Angular material to work correctly. We'll go to the place where the ng-serve is serving already the data. Why we have to restart the server? Because right now a lot of static components are loaded into memory, and we are not recompiling the whole project. And now we are stopping the project and running again ng-serve. And right now the project will be rebuilt. Okay, we refresh. And we type demo. When we click login, we see a nicely styled server error with try again action for the user. And this is on the server errors. And what if our username and passwords are wrong? So we can enter here while we are receiving the data. And if the username and passwords are wrong, actually, we will not receive any data from the server. So if there is no data, we would like to display error to the user. We can do a simple check. So if there is data, we'll actually use this router navigate. So everything will pass correctly. In other cases, we'll display incorrect user and password. I will use predefined code for the Snackbar, and just to change the message as incorrect user password. And here again, okay, the message. Format the document. And let's see now the changes in action. Okay, first we'll start our server. And then we'll go to the browser to test. So these are our main URL. We see nothing in the local storage. If we try to access the secret URL, we're directing to username and password check. If we enter a false username and password, we see incorrect username and password. If we enter the proper ones, we are logged in and we can access the secret URL. Okay, so that's it, guys. You know how to use now correctly JWT tokens together with PHP web services in Angular. And then we'll go to the browser to test. Secret URL, we're directing to, and let's see now, we can do a simple check. So if there is data, secret URL, we're directing to, we can access the secret URL. Okay, so that's it, guys. You know how to use now correctly JWT tokens together with, we can access the secret URL, PHP web services in Angular. Okay, so that's it, guys. you know how to use now correctly JWT tokens together with secret URL. We're directing to PHP web services in Angular. All right, guys, now we'll take a look how to implement refresh tokens. The subject is quite long, so I'll do a simple demonstration, and you can take a look later at the project files and even improve them. The point of refresh tokens is that the refresh token time of expiry is longer, and it can be used to send a request back to the server, and the server to reissue a normal secure token. So the aim of a refresh token is to regenerate the authentication for the user in such way that the user doesn't need to re-log in. So as a demonstration, after we fill in those values, the system will send us both refresh and secure token. We've set the expire date of the normal token as 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, we'll use the refresh token in order to regenerate again the couple of refresh and normal secure token. And if we log in the system, we'll see the normal requests, and in 5 seconds, we'll have another request which will set our refresh token in a special cookie. Now, to the graphical representation of the process, we can use this wonderful hasura.io website where you have the functionality. So initially, we're making the request, and in the system, we are generating both secure and refresh token, and we are sending the refresh token as a HTTP only cookie, which cannot be read or modified by the browser. And then when our secure token is about to expire, we use this cookie, and the server checks the refresh token in its database, whether it's valid, and sends back a new refresh token and a new secure token to the client. And now we'll go to the code. So from the server side, we would like, in order for the HTTP only cookie to work, to allow the credentials. So we are setting them here to true in the header section. And then actually we are composing our normal secure token for a specific user, which we fetched from our database. Here it's set to user ID equals to 123. And then here we are creating the logic for the refresh token. As you can see, it's a little bit longer. And basically, we have a list of active tokens, which usually you can store in a database. This logic here checks whether the user is using too much of them. So it's creating too much of refresh tokens. So if there are more than 3 here, we are pruning them. And afterwards, we are creating one new refresh token, which we save again in the database. In meantime, we are displaying to the user the refresh token in order for the client side to work with it. The interesting part is the setting of the HTTP only cookie. So we are setting this flag to true. And then the generated refresh token, we are saving it inside of this cookie. It will be stored only in our server, so it cannot be manipulated by JavaScript on the client. Next, we'll see how we can handle refresh requests. Such requests come when our secure token is expired and we need to renew it. So in such case, we are decoding the token from the HTTP only cookie, which the client transmits, and we are checking whether the refresh token is not expired. So if it's not expired, we are generating one new secure token and we are sending back to the client. Also, here we are generating a refresh token, and we are sending it as a cookie. This is absolutely the same logic as before, and you can do it as an exercise. This was the server-side part of regeneration of tokens. Now to the Angular part. Basically, in the logging function, we are making a request to the Authentication API. After the request, we are receiving an access token, and if it's valid, we would like to check when it expires. The point of checking when the token expires is for us to be able, a little bit before its expiration, to send a refresh token request in order to renew both of the tokens. And that's what we do here. We are creating one timer, which depends on the expiry time of the token and which sends the request for renewal of the tokens. Depending on the authentication check, in case of success, we're setting again our token with the new information received from the server. And that's how we refreshed our access token. At the same time, the refresh token is sent automatically via HTTP by the server. So on the client side, we are responsible only for setting up the access token, which is stored in local storage for later usage. All right, guys, I advise you to try for yourself the code and to congratulate yourself, because when you know the process, you can always implement this type of functionality in your systems. All right, guys, the next thing that we would like to do in order to improve our code is to be able to serve it from an SSL connection. So that's why we'll create one directory out, and inside we'll have the following Docker file. So basically we are having PHP version 8.1, which comes incorporated into Apache server. And then we are enabling SSL, and we are making a copy of our permission keys inside of the HC Apache SSL. So those keys are cert key and cert, and you can generate them by using the mkcert utility. If we go to the GitHub page of mkcert, we can see that it's very easy to download and install the package. So this will install certificate authority locally on the machine, as well as local trusted certificates. And basically you need to run this command, replacing example.com with the domain that you would like to reference. Then you go to your host file. Here I've added to localhost hello world info. Afterwards, we are using those certificates and we're placing them inside of the Apache container. And the next thing is also to place the default configuration which will use those certificates. So this is for the normal browsing, and for the SSL browsing, the configuration uses those cert PEM and cert key PEM. So you can rename your certificate keys and then run Docker compose up. For the Docker compose, we're just exposing port 80 and port 443 inside of the container outside to be able to make requests of them. One last thing is inside of your Angular JSON here to provide inside of the serve options that we would like to have our domain. When we are ready with all those changes and Docker is installed, we can go to terminal, and from here we can run ng serve --SSL. So this will start our in-memory server. Then we go inside of our Auth folder. So we'll go cd Auth. And here we need to run docker compose up --build. And this will start our Docker container. Here we'll see that we can browse hello world on port 4200 with the HTTPS. So let's browse it, and we see our application running. If we open up the console, we'll see that we will not have a restriction from CORS errors or something like this. Of course, we can use our application, and as you can see, it works correctly. If we clear up the network tab, we see that every 5 seconds, this application requests a refresh token, and this token actually
reactivates our authentication token. The interesting thing here is that if we go to the storage, we see that we have one refresh token that updates, and it's transferred via HTTP only cookie. This means that we cannot touch this token. And basically this ensures way better protection over attacks. One more thing to notice is that in the local storage, we are not storing any kind of token. Again, improving the security in a way that it cannot be used by any other browser add-ons or malicious websites.
Angular has its own MCP server, and if you would like to install it, it's quite easy actually. Here we're using VS Code. If we go to VS Code, we see the settings that we need to add. So from here, you only need the lines that describe the Angular CLI configuration. So copy those, and you can go back to your project inside of Visual Studio Code. For Gemini, you need to create directory.gemini and then file settings.json. And here's something important. The configuration should start with MCP servers key, and you can add Angular CLI configuration. So once this is added with F1 and then reload the window, everything should be ready to be used. If you go to the Gemini CLI and type MCP, you can see that for the Angular, we have 6 tools discovered here, and those can be used in our prompt. For example, if I type AI tutor and we are in agent mode, we see that already we have an interaction with this tool. If we go and click on thinking, we'll see that Gemini has discovered this tool. On top of this, if we go to list servers and then we click on Angular CLI, browse resources, and we see the Angular best practices. So we have one file automatically included that will be taken into account when Gemini is suggesting us a code. And this is quite good if you are going to rely on help from the AI in your projects.